Now we have another book that we need to talk about. We have Where Evil Lives. This is fantastic because you get these kind of big boss villain encounters, but you get everything you need to make it memorable in this book, correct? And that's on D&D Beyond now.
Yes, yes. Where Evil Lives is an accidental hardcover. So it was
Oh,
meant
what is an
to,
accidental hardcover?
well, so it was meant to be initially within Flea Mortals.
Right.
And what happened was Flea Mortals got real big with all of the stat blocks that are in there, and then
There.
we had all of these layers that we wanted to put in as well. And it was just like, you know what? Let's just separate them because otherwise it's going to be a really expensive. It was going to be more expensive to ship the book to
Right.
people in
Yeah.
as one big tome than in two separate packages.
Right.
So we ended up doing that. So it's got all of the monsters from Where Evil Lives, which is our monster book, right? Those stat blocks are reprinted in Where Evil Lives, so you get every stat block you need when you purchase Where Evil Lives to run these lairs. It is 22 different lairs, ranging from like each one is appropriate for 5 characters, levels 2 to 20, right? Starting with a goblin lair, ending with a lich lair, and they're short, right? Each lair is maybe like 10 areas, right? So they're not these massive, massive places. You can drop them into a campaign if you need something. There's advice about like, hey, here's some different ways you might be able to adjust things or things like that to get the lair that you need for the night. And each one has a boss creature in it, right? And that boss, it leads to this like climatic boss creature. And each boss creature also has a custom treasure hoard. And that treasure hoard includes like a bunch of different art objects that we outlined and talk about how much they cost, but also at least one original magic item and then one original like other reward. Like, ooh, here's a recipe for a special kind of poison or a deed to some piece of property, that kind of thing, right? So that we can give you rewards that aren't just awesome loot, right? We can give you some other things as well that might be creating a more interesting story for you and your players when you drop them in there. And it's all very customizable, right? It's very easy to swap creatures in and out. They all come with maps, right? Full color maps that you can use to run your adventures and stuff. And if you have it on D&D Beyond, like the great thing is you're going to be able to have it in there with all your other books. So if you're like, you know what? I really wish that this creature was in here. Well, it's like, cool. Well, if you have that book on D&D Beyond, just open a new tab. Boop, boop, boop. Now it's in there if you want it, right? Like you can go ahead and mix and match your creations with everything being in D&D Beyond, and that is just beautiful.
It's gonna be very nice being able to use all those beautiful maps in D&D Beyond's map system as well. So to be able to use all
Yes.
those tokens and stuff. Do you have a particular encounter that or a boss battle that you are a huge fan? And were any of these inspired by real life events?
So there's a hideout that's run by a bandit leader who's an orc, right? And he's got this organization that's bandits. And it's all kinds of humans, right? It's not just orcs, there's humans, there's different folks there. But it basically sits on top of a like a tavern, right? And you have to order this special drink to be able to go down there. And the way the author pitched it to me was like, it's sort of a kitschy tavern, right? Like it's kind of like if Applebee's had a criminal organization in the basement.
No.
Uh, and so it's that is one of my favorites. William Beale is the author who worked on that. There's also a really cool high level adventure it's for 15th level characters and it takes place in so there's this like gloom dragon, right? Picture like a black dragon but on steroids. And have this lair that is like in the sun, in a dark spot in the sun, right? So you have to teleport there to get there, and once you're there, it's like this swamp within a enclosed dark spot in the sun, where there are like all kinds of creatures that are performing experiments on like angels and stuff to harvest the light out of them because this creature loves to eat light and wants to consume the light that is in the world, right? And so that's Sadie Lowry did that lair, and it is quite incredible. It's really really great. So that's the Coronal Hollow, and I'm a big fan of that one too.
That's amazing. I love that. Anything else in particular that sticks out? I mean, those are two fantastic encounters. I'm still concerned about the Applebee's one. Um, I'm
Yes.
always going to wonder, what is this a front for?
Yes, yes. Whenever I mean, you should wonder that into any friendly neighborhood grill you go into.
Yeah.
You should be wondering that at all times. Yeah, there's another one called the terminal excrescence. And so this is a lair. We have a creature called the Voiceless Talkers, and they're like an aberrant creature who they experiment. They're super evil. And you know they capture people and experiment on them, and it's gross and they're awful. So they're great villains to get in there and fight, right? And they have the terminal excrescence is this is like a content warning for anybody coming up who
It
deals
does feel like one is nigh.
yeah. So for body horror, but essentially it is this big orb, right? They came from another world. So this is the vessel that they have traveled in that's crashed deep underground, and now flesh has started to grow around it because of all the experiments and stuff happening inside. And so you've got to like get into this big fleshy ball, right? And then once you're inside, there are all these horrible half a troll hanging from the ceiling that's coming for you and stuff like that. So that is a really good horror thing. And one of the things that you get if you make your way through that lair is you find a machine that allows you to like give you superpowers, right? You get inside and then your friends bang on the controls and like now you can fly or whatever. But you have to be careful because if they do it wrong, all of your atoms are ripped apart, right? So like just be careful in that machine.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
What is your advice for making those boss battles memorable? And because there's so much kind of writing on it, right? When you build up a boss or a moment to make it feel satisfying, to make have the players feel like the heroes.
So the thing that I would say is when you're doing prep for a boss battle, right? Keep in mind the terrain, right? The terrain really matters, and give them really cool options for what we call villain actions in the book, but legendary actions too, right? Give them really cool options and know in your head as you're doing your prep, like I can tune this back. This can deal less damage if it needs to, right? But what you can't do is turn it forward necessarily, right? Like you can't, if you say that the creature is dead, they're probably dead, right? You can always add more hit points and that kind of thing. So that's a little trick that I use, right? Is like the players don't know how many hit points this thing has. If it goes a little longer for their entertainment, great, that's fine. Because, and I only really do that for boss battles. Some would say that is like, oh, you're cheating the game. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. I'm not going to come to your house and take your book. But I do think that like if you want an exciting battle, you have all of the levers. Don't be afraid to pull them. One thing that I learned huge was watching Chris Perkins run adventures that he has written. And how he changes them to fit the different parties and stuff that he plays with was eye-opening because I was like, he wrote it, right?
Yeah.
Like, so why isn't he running it?
It is not sacred to him. Yeah,
exactly,
like
exactly. So yeah, don't let it be sacred to you, right? And don't let our book be sacred to you either. I give you permission to change anything you want.
How many different layers and boss battles are in this?
So there's 22, right? There's 22 layers, and each one has a boss battle. And then there's other encounters throughout, right? There's traps and social encounters and combat encounters with minions and henchmen and stuff like that. You can find pets, you can find retainers, you can make friends with a ghost. So all that good stuff is in there for you to be able to do and have like a solid evening of adventure. And there's also options for like, hey, if you want to try to talk your way through this dungeon, you should be allowed to try that. And here's how it would work, right? So that's part of it too.
Well, what's one of your favorite like design notes? So you're like, this is something that was really fantastic to put into a book to aid players, to aid dungeon masters.
One thing that we did was we added all of these different story hooks for every layer, right? A lot of them were written by a guy named Mario Ortegan. He's a great author. And so we put all of these different things where it's like, here's how you can work this layer in. Hey, tonight I don't have anything prepared. I'm going to take 5 minutes to read over this layer. How am I going to work it in? You have 3 options for like boom, 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 boom. Here's how you can work it in. Here's how it's going to fit in. Hey, guess what? If they do this, there might be an extra reward for them because somebody asked them to go to the dungeon, right? Or, hey, if they go here, this person accompanies them if you use this hook to get them to the dungeon. So that was one of the big things that I was really happy with. The other thing that I'm happy with is that we put a little bit of a different format. I know that I have made controversial remarks about box text before. But so we have a little bit of a different format in terms of how you read aloud the text to your players. And it's like, here's the thing that I love about box text. Boom, read this aloud, right? But then there might be hidden things that you don't know about. There might be that like I as the GM should know when you're stepping into this room, right? That like this is what's going to happen. But the players don't know, right? And so we've broken that information out, and it's like, hey, if it's in quotes, read it out loud. If it has the word secret next to it and no quotes, don't read it out loud. And then there's other information that's organized that way too. So each area gives you right up front what you need to know. Like, here's what's in this room, quick summary. And then if you want all the details of how that trap works, read on, right? That kind of thing.
That's fantastic. Is there anything I didn't ask that I should have asked about both these books?
No, I mean, listen, it's just that I use them all the time, right? That's what I would say is that like, and of course I wrote them, and led the design and stuff, but I wrote them with a bunch of other people, and I became fans of all of these people that we're working with because of how great the ideas are. I became fans of all the artists and cartographers because of how amazing that the work that was put into this book. So, I'm really excited. I think the other thing you should know is that the D&D Beyond version of Flea Mortals and Where Evil Lives, it has the most up-to-date version, right? We put it out, and found some things that it was like, oh, it would help if this was clarified or that kind of thing. So we made all those updates, and that was before it came to D&D Beyond. So now D&D Beyond has like a really clean, awesome, up-to-date version to check out. So really excited to be in the D&D Beyond ecosystem. That's amazing. And thank you to you and to all the great folks over there at D&D Beyond.
I always like anything that you create or design because you always have it in mind for either yourself to use personally or someone else. You're like, I wish I had this when I was running this. And so that's why the design is always fantastic, and the ideas are so great. So I appreciate you. It's great having you back on D&D Beyond again.
Thank you. It's really fun to be back, and it's fun to be chatting with you, and like I'm so excited. It's so awesome that you're changing the D&D world here, Todd. So thank you for having me back.
That's very kind. I would argue the same for you. All right. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.